The Olympic Games are a testament to the pursuit of glory. Yet there have been times when this quest has led to devastating tragedies. From promising athletes whose dreams were abruptly shattered, to fierce competitors from the ancient Olympics, here are the 10 most shocking Olympic tragedies that have forever altered the landscape of sports. Number 10. The Portuguese marathon runner. In 1912, the streets of Stockholm were hot, the air thick with the promise of glory and the weight of expectation. Francisco Lázaro, a 21-year-old marathon runner from Lisbon, stood at the starting line, representing Portugal with hopes as bright as the blazing sun overhead. But as the race unfolded, those hopes would turn to ash. Francisco had a peculiar pre-race ritual. He coated his skin with a thick layer of wax, believing it would protect him from excessive sweating. Little did he know, this decision would seal his fate. As the race progressed and the sun climbed higher, the wax trapped the heat against his body, turning his skin into a furnace. By the 19-mile mark, his body was in crisis. The young athlete staggered and collapsed, the heat overwhelming his every effort to push forward. Despite being rushed to a hospital, Francisco Lázaro never regained consciousness. The official cause of death was heat stroke, marking the first time an athlete had died during the modern Olympic Games. Number 9. The Australian skier. Fast forward to 1964, to the icy slopes of Innsbruck, Austria. The Winter Olympics were in full swing, and one of the competitors who had captured the attention of many was 19-year-old Ross Milne, a skier from a small tobacco farm in Victoria, Australia. The mountains that stood so majestically in the distance would soon witness a tragedy that would reverberate through the Olympic community. The downhill course at Patscherkofel was notorious for its perilous design, made even more treacherous by a lack of snow that year. Organizers had been forced to transport snow from other regions, creating a slick and unforgiving track. As Ross set out on his first official training run, the sky was overcast, and the air was thick with foreboding. Ross navigated the course with skill, but as he rounded a bend, he encountered a group of skiers blocking his path. Traveling at 60 to 70 kilometers per hour, he swerved to avoid them, but control slipped from his grasp. In an instant, Ross was catapulted into a tree. The impact was devastating. His body crumpled, his skull shattered. Medical personnel rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Ross Milne's promising future was extinguished in a heartbeat. His death sparked a whirlwind of grief and controversy, raising questions about the safety of the Olympic courses and the responsibilities of those who design them. Number 8. The Danish cyclist. The heat of Rome in 1960 was merciless, bearing down on the athletes competing in the Olympic Games. Among the cyclists vying for glory was Knud Enemark Jensen, a 23-year-old who had earned his place as one of Denmark's top amateur riders. However, his promising career would be tragically cut short in a race that exposed the dangers lurking beneath the surface of elite sports. Jensen was competing in the 100-kilometer team time trial, a grueling event that tested both endurance and resilience. As the race progressed, the oppressive heat began to take its toll on the cyclists. Athletes dropped out one by one, felled by heat stroke and dehydration. Jensen himself had complained of feeling unwell early on, but he pressed forward, determined to finish the race. As he neared the finish line, Jensen wobbled on his bike, his vision blurring. He lost his balance and fell to the ground, hitting his head hard on the scorching asphalt. Unconscious and vulnerable, he was placed in a military hospital tent, where the temperature soared to a sweltering 50 degrees Celsius. His body, already weakened, could not recover. Knud Enemark Jensen's death sent shockwaves through the Olympic community, raising suspicions about doping and the extreme measures athletes might take to push their bodies beyond their limits. Number 7. The Swiss speed skier. The icy slopes of Albertville, France were alive with anticipation in 1992 as athletes from around the world gathered for the Winter Olympics. One such athlete was Nicolas Bochatai, a 27-year-old Swiss speed skier, renowned for his lightning-fast descents and fearless approach to the sport. But on the morning of February 22nd, the mountain would claim another victim in its relentless pursuit of glory. Speed skiing is a sport of raw adrenaline, where competitors hurtle down slopes at over 200 kilometers per hour, flirting with the very limits of control.
Bochatai was among the elite of his discipline, his name already known for clocking a blistering 210 kilometers per hour at Les Arcs. But on that fateful morning, as he warmed up with his teammates, tragedy struck. As Bochatai soared over a bump on the public slope, he landed directly in the path of a snowcat, a massive machine used for grooming the slopes. The snowcat was hidden behind a small hill, its presence unknown to Bochatai until it was too late. The collision was sudden and violent, the impact catastrophic. Bochatai suffered massive internal injuries, including hypovolemic shock and a collapsed lung. Despite being airlifted to a nearby hospital, he died almost instantly, his life claimed by the mountain he loved. The confusion and conflicting accounts of the snowcat's visibility only added to the heartbreak, as the world lost another athlete to an avoidable tragedy. Number 6. The Romanian boxer. Berlin, 1936. The city was at the epicenter of global attention as it hosted the Summer Olympics. Amidst the political tensions and grand displays of nationalism, a young Romanian boxer named Nicolae Bereșe was stepping into the ring, ready to showcase his talent on the world stage. But what unfolded would be far from the triumph he had envisioned. At just 20 years old, Bereșe was representing his country in the featherweight boxing category. Born in Romania, he had grown up amidst the hardships and challenges that shaped his determination and fighting spirit. The boxing arena was electric with anticipation, the crowd eager for the drama and excitement that only boxing could deliver. Bereșe's opponent, Evald Seeberg of Estonia, was a formidable adversary. As the match commenced, the two fighters clashed with all the intensity and passion of warriors in battle. But despite Bereșe's tenacity, the bout did not go in his favor. Seeberg's agility and precision earned him a victory on points, leaving Bereșe defeated but unbowed. In the days following the match, Bereșe began to feel unwell. What initially seemed like the aftermath of a hard-fought battle soon escalated into something far more sinister. The young boxer was stricken with a sudden illness, his condition deteriorating rapidly. He succumbed to his illness just 3 days after his Olympic match. The autopsy report revealed a shocking truth, one that the German authorities refused to send back to his home country for further investigation. Bereșe's death was a loss not just for Romania, but for the world of boxing, which had seen a bright talent extinguished too soon. Number 5. The Polish-born luge athlete. Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy, 1956. The Winter Olympics were unfolding against a backdrop of stunning alpine scenery. One athlete who had captured the attention of spectators was Kazimierz Skrzypecki, a Polish-born luge athlete competing for Great Britain. But the White Serpent, as the luge course was known, would soon reveal its deadly fangs. Luge is a sport that demands precision, skill, and nerves of steel as competitors race down an icy track at astonishing speeds. The Cortina course was notorious for its unforgiving terrain, with sharp turns and steep descents that tested even the most seasoned athletes. Skrzypecki, known for his bold racing style, approached the event with determination and excitement. As he positioned himself on his sled, the crowd fell silent, their anticipation palpable. The wind howled around him as he accelerated down the track, the world a blur of motion and ice. But midway through the run, disaster struck. As he approached the infamous Devil's Corner, a treacherous bend that had claimed many before him, a sudden miscalculation caused his sled to veer off course. Kazimierz was violently ejected from his sled, his body colliding with the track's icy walls with devastating force. He suffered severe head trauma, fractured ribs, and a punctured lung. Despite the rapid response of emergency teams, Kazimierz succumbed to his injuries shortly after arriving at the hospital. The luge community was left to grapple with the harsh reality that one of their own had paid the ultimate price for the sport they loved. Number 4. The Austrian alpine skier. The Winter Olympics are a grand spectacle where athletes from around the world gather to showcase their peak physical abilities and the human spirit's resilience. However, the glory of the Games is sometimes overshadowed by the risks that come with high-performance sports. The 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary, Canada, became a poignant reminder of these dangers with the tragic death of Jörg Oberhammer, a dedicated Austrian team doctor whose life was cut short in a devastating accident. Jörg Oberhammer was not an athlete, but an orthopedic surgeon, the head of the Austrian alpine skiing team's medical staff. His role was crucial. He was the one who kept the athletes in top condition, mending injuries, advising on physical health, and providing the care that would allow them to perform at their best. Oberhammer was deeply respected in his field, known for his exceptional skill, unwavering dedication, and the genuine care he showed for the athletes under his supervision. February 25, 1988, was supposed to be a day of respite for Oberhammer. The Olympic events were in full swing, and he took the opportunity to enjoy a break from his demanding duties by skiing the slopes of Nakiska, the Olympic venue. However, what was meant to be a relaxing outing turned into a nightmare. As Oberhammer skied down the mountain, he collided with another skier who had lost control. The impact was catastrophic, propelling Oberhammer down the slope with tremendous force. Tragically, his fall sent him sliding directly into the path of a snow grooming machine. The machine's sharp blades, designed to maintain the slopes, struck Oberhammer with overwhelming force. Despite the immediate efforts of emergency responders who rushed to the scene, the injuries he sustained were too severe. Jörg Oberhammer was pronounced dead on the mountain, a heartbreaking loss for everyone involved. Number 3. The Munich Massacre. The 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, Germany, were intended to showcase peace and international unity. But these games became infamous for a tragedy that struck the Israeli Olympic team, a massacre that would forever stain the history of the Olympics. On September 5th, in the early hours of the morning, the Olympic Village was infiltrated by a Palestinian terrorist group called Black September. 8 terrorists took members of the Israeli Olympic team hostage, including 24-year-old wrestler Eliezer Halfin and 10 others. The initial attack resulted in the deaths of 2 Israeli athletes, Moshe Weinberg and Yosef Romano, who tried to resist the intruders. The terrorists then took 9 other Israelis hostage, including Halfin, and for over 20 hours, they held their captives, demanding the release of 234 Palestinian prisoners and safe passage out of Germany. Negotiations were attempted, but they ultimately failed. The German authorities, ill-prepared for such a situation, planned a rescue operation at the Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base. The rescue attempt ended in disaster. Miscommunication, lack of coordination, and inadequate planning plagued the operation. As the hostages and terrorists arrived at the airbase, the German police sharpshooters opened fire, triggering a tragic chain of events. The terrorists, realizing their situation was dire, began executing the hostages. Eliezer Halfin, along with his 10 teammates, was among those killed. Number 2. The Georgian Luger. The year was 2010, and the Winter Olympics in Vancouver, Canada were in full swing. Among the athletes was 21-year-old Luger Nodar Kumaritashvili, representing the small but proud nation of Georgia. But the Whistler Sliding Center, with its challenging design and breakneck speeds, would soon claim a life in a tragedy that would reverberate through the Olympic community. The Whistler Sliding Center was infamous for its dizzying speeds and treacherous turns, a track that demanded the utmost skill and precision. Nodar, young and fearless, was determined to conquer the course. With a deep breath, he pushed off, plunging into the icy abyss. But as he approached the Thunderbird Corner, a particularly tricky section, disaster struck. Nodar's sled veered slightly, just enough to spell disaster. He was thrown from his sled, his body sailing through the air until it collided with an unpadded metal pole. The impact was brutal, the sound of the collision echoing through the valley. Despite the efforts of emergency crews, Nodar could not be revived. Number 1. The Legend of Arician of Figaleia. We travel back in time to 564 BC to the ancient city of Olympia, where the 54th Olympiad is unfolding under the Greek sun. Arician of Figaleia, a renowned pancratiast, stands ready to defend his title in the brutal and revered sport of pankration, a contest where nearly anything is allowed and only the strongest survive. Arician was a crowd favorite, celebrated for his victories in previous Olympiads. The final bout arrived, and Arician faced an opponent whose skill was evident. The 2 athletes circled each other, muscles tense, eyes locked, the crowd watching in rapt attention as they grappled. But as the match wore on, Arician found himself trapped in a vice-like chokehold. His opponent's arms coiled around his neck, cutting off his breath. In a final, desperate move, Arichian lashed out with his foot, twisting his opponent's ankle with such force that it dislocated. The opponent cried out in agony, signaling his submission. The judges declared Arichian the victor, and the crowd erupted in jubilant cheers. But in that moment of triumph, Arichian collapsed to the ground. The chokehold had done its work. He had succumbed to the lack of air, his life ending even as his victory was secured. Arichian's body was carried from the arena, but his legacy was immortalized. In accordance with the rules, he was awarded the victory posthumously, his olive wreath placed upon the head of a lifeless champion. The legend of Arichian of Figalia lives on, a reminder of the ultimate sacrifice in the pursuit of glory. If there are other shocking incidents in sports that you know of and would like to share, leave a comment below and I'll be happy to read it. Also, check out the 2 videos appearing on screen right now for more top-tier curiosity. I'll see you in the next video.